Beefers of the world. My name is Rich.
And my name is Ben.
And on this episode of Reef Beef, we're going to talk about water changes, do them or avoid them. We're going to talk about stuff that Jason Langer sent us, delicious candy corn shaped cookies. And we're going to do some Ask Reef Beef. So welcome to the show, everyone.
And also, too, we have saltwateraquarium.com that is sponsoring the show. So thank you, saltwateraquarium.com. Richard, what's going on, dude?
We are, it's Halloween. So our house is, this is like our high holy day, if we had such a thing. So our house is completely transformed. Yeah. We started early, but the ghost is up. I have a crank ghost. I will try to take some video of it that I built so we can put it here. And she goes like this. I relit her. I gave her new lights this year, and we've had her for like 15 years.
Awesome.
In our front window, and she went up yesterday, and so now I feel like it's Halloween.
Yeah, I love Halloween. Honestly, it's my favorite time of the year. I don't have a costume, but I guess I'm being creepy because look, I'm in your house.
You're in my house. Oh, speaking of Jason Langer.
Yeah.
That's so funny that he sent you that background of my house.
It's not a background. I'm really in your house.
Are you in my house?
Yeah.
This is just a background then. Hey, guess what, Ben?
I would guess, but it'd probably be better if you just told me.
Guess what happened to my calcium reactor this week?
Please don't tell me something happened with it.
Not a fucking thing.
Good.
It was because some of the posts, some of the comments from the last show were like, calcium reactors suck. Look at how many problems you're having. And
no, it is crazy because I mean, what I could say for you is that just like any piece of machinery or, you're super used to it, like none of that's really a big deal. It maybe sound like Richard's making it a big deal, but it's kind of fodder for the show as well.
Yeah, that's the main thing, right? It's like, oh, well, here's something that I didn't even think about really when I adjusted it, but we've been talking about it, so I'll talk about it. But then most of the time,
go ahead. Sorry.
For like a year, I won't say anything about the calcium reactor because it will just work now. So.
Yeah. I was surprised because in the comments section, there's a ton of people that are dosing. I mean, it's hard. I mean, how do you get not demographics, but just how do you get the numbers of who's using what? I suppose if you're on forums, but it just sounds like a lot of people are using dosing, but I also know a lot of people are doing calcium reactors.
Yeah, but I mean, it makes sense that a lot of people are doing dosing. Dosing is a lot less expensive to get into.
On the front end.
On the front end, the same thing. Calcium reactor, I think, makes sense at about 400 gallons. Maybe it's so much cheaper now, or that dosing makes sense in bigger tanks. Mark Vanderwall said he was doing dosing now and loves it. I think it's just whatever you got going on. Really what it comes down to. And I own the calcium reactor. I change the cylinder once a year, and it's super easy for me to adjust it just based on pH of the effluent. So
yeah.
But I think there's a million ways to skin a reef, so skin away.
Hey Richard.
Hey, yeah, Ben.
Supposedly you had a bunch of stuff sent to you from Jason Langer.
Jason Langer sent me a box. And
what's in the box?
Jason Langer of Foursquare Aquatics. Is that in the right place? Foursquare Aquatics. So he sent me some merch. He sent me this towel and a hat, and he sent me this shirt. But the real reason he sent me stuff, there's two real reasons. One, Jason Foursquare Aquatics, he makes
cookies.
What?
Cookies,
but he also makes ATS, algal turf scrubbers.
Yes.
And he and I keep talking about, should I run one? And I feel like it doesn't make sense for you to send me one. But anyway, maybe one day. But he also did that artwork of the octopuses. And so here, he made me this shirt.
That's cool. Is that the same octopus right there?
That is the same exact one. So that's a painting he did on wood. And now it is made in a shirt. So I'm excited about that because this is a good shirt. This is a good shirt. But that's not all. Oh, he sent me a drink cozy that my drink is now in, which is not a bad idea because then any drink would they're all Foursquare Aquatics. We should get Reef Beef ones. But he did send me this because it's Halloween. So he sent me some some spooky
Well,
cookies.
he's swagged the hell out of you.
Some spooky cookies. But
the Wolfman and the
fucking candy corn cookie.
No.
Oh
No.
yeah.
That's the biggest mistake.
Yeah. No, it's the best. And it's candy corn flavored.
I bet you it tastes like doo-doo.
So I will be eating that in a few days. I'm very excited.
But that's a little weird because it's not made out of candy corns.
It's really just a fuck you to you. It's a candy corn. Yeah, that's all.
Man, he didn't even ask me if I want a ATS. I don't want it now.
No, well, he didn't ask me if I wanted one when I was thinking about them again earlier this year, I guess. I asked him, I said, hey, you're the person I know who makes them and they seem good. So what do you think? So we went back and forth and he would, it's still hard for him to get parts from COVID. Oh. And, so I was like, dude, don't give me a blemish or whatever, or sell me a cost, yeah, this is just a thing to play with. So you should sell them to people who are going to give you money for them. Full price for them. Because I don't believe in it enough for me to want to spend full price, but I'll play with the idea of one for a discount. But I don't want to take money away from Jason because he works really hard and he makes good stuff. So so that's the Jason Langer saga. He has sent me cookies in the shape of candy corns and octopus porn shirts. So he is one of my heroes.
He makes beautiful cookies, that's for sure. If you've never seen, where does he have that? Well, you can look that up.
Those are at that fish cookie guy, fishcookieguy.com. Here,
we'll also put a link in the description.
That fishcookieguy.com. So he made a big name for himself by making all kinds of accurate cookies of fish. So crazy fish, and he would make them photo accurate. You can see on that picture right there is a flame wrasse, but he's done like all the wrasses. He at a Magna, he presented me with a larger Pacific striped octopus cookie, and I lost my fucking mind. It was the best thing ever. I had 2 of them.
Did it make you sad to eat it?
No, because you've got to eat them because they go bad and fall apart and stuff. So
and then you poop them out, and then then once it gets to that point, it tastes like candy corn.
It's funny. Hey, don't you disparage candy corn.
I will absolutely disparage.
Do not do it. And they poop them out. You can actually sift through it and get the cookie back. Just off the top of my head, there's another discussion going on about O2 levels in tanks. In tanks that have
O2 levels
that have power outages.
Okay.
And it's interesting because people are like, well, what citations? And I'm like, basic science. Come on. So I'm having a fun time trying to figure out how to have this discussion with people who are skeptical about it being O2 levels fish dying during a power outage because O2 levels go down because all of your bacteria and microfauna suck up a lot of oxygen in a tank. And, so the larger the fish or the more active the fish, the more oxygen it needs. So the fish can be affected where all the corals and everything else are not affected because they have a lower oxygen demand. They can survive in a lot less oxygen, which is why you can ship them without oxygen sometimes, and fish you put in a bag. So it's very interesting to me that the same kind that since I think modern reefs and most everything is sumped now. So if you keep the return going, you get a crap ton of gas exchange going down the drains. So it's really just not often a problem. So it's even more strange that it's a problem. It's even more alien to people because it's just not something they deal with that much anymore. And, you say surface agitation is a way and they go, well, it's got some ripples on the top. And it's like, no, surface agitation. You got to be breaking the surface tension. Yeah. So it's just very interesting to me that we kind of have to reinvent that part of the hobby again because we've gotten so good at the hobby that it's not an issue.
But I think, and we've had that discussion in past episodes. I think, you always talk about reinventing the things, but I guess I see it on my end because, people come and go in the hobby. So it feels like you're reinventing. It's just because you get new people coming in and they're just, hell, I mean, everyone knows it's difficult to get into something, especially you start, wading into the aquarium, especially more so the reef aquarium industry. And you're just like, oh, it's a lot of details here.
That's been really interesting in reading the beginner forums and getting, I'm a lot more relaxed now because I'm seeing that people just don't know stuff.
Yeah.
But when, experienced reef keepers don't seem to know about oxygen issues in the tank, it feels like they haven't read enough books.
Yeah.
It seems like that's in everything, every time there's a hurricane coming, people talk about it. So it's interesting to me that it's fallen, that the issue of dissolved oxygen has kind of fallen away. And I kind of want to go, yeah, I don't really ever claim to be an expert, but I am going to claim about this particular issue. I'm just right. So everyone listen to me because I am burdened with glorious purpose. Listen to me about this. But I don't want to do that because that's so dicky.
No, I know for sure. And that's part of why I'm glad that I don't go on the forums is I don't like the arguments. And then, I guess ego things, like maybe that sounds goofy, but I'm just being completely honest and upfront. It's like you go on there and you try to help someone and then someone starts arguing with you. But that's the funny thing with ego. If I'd calm down later and go back and look at it, it's like, well, they're probably right. I didn't like getting challenged, and that's a personal thing. Yeah. It's not to say that I don't like getting challenged. It's just depending what mood you're in when you lock into the forum, someone brings something up.
I'm trying to be much more stoic about it. If I'm getting aggro about something, that's my fault.
True.
I can't. I should only be having an ongoing discussion because I'm enjoying having the ongoing discussion.
Yeah.
I'm not enjoying it, and somebody wants to say, it's not the O2 in the water that killed these fish.
Well, you and I talked about that once. It would be, which seems kind of weird. It's like we're telling people words they should use necessarily. But, I think when we're talking about aquarium stuff, it's good to preface some sentences or some thing you're going to say with maybe it's, or it could be, or it just sounds weird when people just jumping out the gates, and they're sounding like they know the answer to what's going. It's not this, it couldn't be that, and all this and that,
I think even in this conversation, I said, if fish die during a short power outage, it is very, 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 very likely that it is an O2 issue and not some other issue. And I would be willing to bet all of my careers on that.
And from my experience too, it almost always follows, like the bigger the fish is, they're the first ones to go.
And it makes total sense, right?
Just a higher demand.
Yeah, they need more oxygen to live. When I had the problem in that chromis tank at the Steinhardt, it made sense to me that the chromis went down because they are the most active fish.
Yeah.
But the scorpion fish in that tank didn't blink. But that thing
just couch potato.
There.
Yeah.
So, and it's not always. People also want, how is it well, tell me a surefire way not to lose fish in a power outage. It's like, I can't tell you a surefire way, but
have a generator.
But if you put a bunch of automatically turning on air pumps in your tank, it's way less likely you're going to lose fish because you're getting more oxygen put into the water.
Yeah,
to an extent.
Being here in Houston, the whole hurricane thing is a big issue here, and it's to where, I don't sell generators myself. Sometimes I think maybe I should, but when I get a client, and if this is a $15,000 or up system, and it's like, look, you got to go out and get a generator, because what are you making this investment for? And we're in Houston, you're going to need it eventually.
Yeah.
But if it's like a wealthy client, they'll have like Generacs on concrete pads that are tied into natural gas, and that's that. But if it's like an office building, I just tell them, just get a something sized for the aquarium, stick it in a closet, and have it there because you'll probably need it.
And we don't get power outages here. even my town actually has its own power company. So it's really rare for us to get power out. And I think the longest we've ever had it, I've lived here since 97, has been, a 4-hour power outage when, a tree knocks something down. But I have a generator. I actually have 2 generators because I'm an idiot. I have a gas Honda, and I also have a dual gas one that I can run off propane, which seems to make more sense to me. But I've never fired them up because I've never used them. And then I've got UPSs and stuff because I figure, these air pumps go and they do a really good job. And I suppose I could get a bigger UPS. So like a power head that draws 10 watts or whatever would run off that for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
But I'd have to be here to rig that up. So.
Yeah, I guess depending where you live and is proclivity the right word, but the proclivity for power outage to happen at your house. Like, obviously, what are you doing buying thousands of dollars of corals without some sort of backup plan?
Yeah, if I was in Houston, I would absolutely have something online and ready to go.
Yeah,
because hurricanes is coming all the time, right?
Hey,
when we get it, we get an
sorry.
earthquake. I'm going to have bigger things to think about than my aquarium.
Oh, earthquake. Yeah, that's a weird thing I don't ever have to think about.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's you got to know what your possibilities are and plan for them. So
it's like if you think you're going to live somewhere where there's not some sort of natural disaster thing that occasionally happens. I don't know where that is.
It is very, 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 very likely. Oh. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Richard.
You know where I ordered from today?
Saltwateraquarium.com.
I did. I ordered from saltwateraquarium.com, and I used the link from the that they gave to Reef Beef, so we get the credit for it. And I also wrote a note that said, Reef Beef is really great. Those guys are dreamy. So saltwateraquarium.com, longtime sponsor of the show. We really appreciate them. And you can show the love to them as well by using the link that we have below from saltwateraquarium.com. And if you buy from them, when you buy from them, send them a note that says you got there because of Reef Beef. That's how they know it's worth advertising. And
it helps them quantify where our advertising dollars are going.
Yeah, and we really like saltwateraquarium.com. We liked them before we were even Reef Beef. They're a small, family-run company. They got, all the grandparents chained to desks, packing things up. And
with logging chains.
They've got pretty much every product you would want. They've got. So it's a really nice one-stop shop for all the kind of stuff you might need from your reef. Everything from food to micronutrients to whatever a micronutrient is.
Pumps,
chemicals
even
to pumps.
Macronutrients. They just have bags of nitrates sitting around.
To glues, to plumbing parts, lights. They got everything you need. And they also have a lot of cool freebies that they can send to you. And why else should people buy from saltwateraquarium.com, Ben?
The cool thing is they have 3 different shipping locations across the United States that helps them get your package out to you quickly with a quickness. They have an online forum where you can mix with them on asking them about equipment that they have and choices. They have articles that you can, resources that you can get to there. They have frequent buyer discounts.
You can text message with them because who uses the phone now? So you can text message them your questions, and they have all kinds of discounts for veterans, for first responders, for people who work in the medical industry, all kinds of stuff like that. And they've got a rewards program that you buy stuff from them, you get 5% back on some of the stuff, which means you then can have credit to buy more stuff later. So Saltwater Aquarium. Oh God, we forgot the new one. We almost forgot it, but they have cleanup crews now.
Yeah. In-house. They're doing it themselves. They're not farming it out to someone else.
So they send you big stuff and it's healthy. And on the bag, it's really easy to know what it is. And they are paying attention, and they come from fallow systems. So the likelihood of you getting any fish disease from their cleanup crew is very, very low. And why not? Tell us tell us in the comments what you got from saltwateraquarium.com. That seems
That's what
pretty.
I was thinking too. Yeah,
that seems pretty shilly, but I'd be actually interested to see what people are ordering.
No, I would too, for real.
Then it would let us know what our beefers are into, and that's interesting.
Yeah.
So saltwateraquarium.com. Check them out. Use the affiliate link that we have below and tell them we sent you. It is very, 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 very likely. Oh.
Hey, Richard.
Hey, Ben.
Let's talk about water changes.
Ooh, I love water changes.
So my fear is because I'm so like ADD, like I always try to keep things cogent, and I go back and watch these episodes and I'm like, good Lord. Oh. So just what's in my mind is I'm just, obviously because of my trade and whatnot, I'm just always about water changes. And I have seen over the decades, there's like little movements where people are trying to get away from water changes. And I don't see that as a bad thing. I just see that as all kind of premature. And I've never done much with ICP and all that, tinkering with the minor elements and all that. And so I guess that's a way that people, I think that's kind of part of that Triton method, is people trying to get away from, is that correct? Trying to get away from water changes?
The Trident?
Yeah, Trident. Yeah. Not the Triton, but the Trident method where you do ICC.
The Triton.
Yeah.
Triton method.
Triton method. Yes. And, I guess from beating that damn drum again, but I'm just saying, being around the block for a while, it's like I've seen it's 287 years. There's always a little thing where people like, I remember at Lengsize ecosystem, remember? And it was like, do less water. It's always do less. That stupid thing I was involved in, Eco Aqualizer. If there's like a golden bullet someone's always trying to push, it's always like trying to get away from water changes.
My position, right? I think water changes are the golden bullet.
Yeah.
I think all filtration that we do is a substitute for water changes.
Yeah.
And
now, but that's why I say, depending on your equipment, you could certainly lessen it. And if you had less good equipment or, something like that you'd have to do larger, it's kind of up to the person as a hobbyist to see where they land on the frequency and the volume of water changes that they're doing.
Sure. I think what worries me is the penchant to not do water changes, or for water changes to be a last resort thing. Yeah. And I think water changes are a first resort thing, but I'm freaking spoiled. I'll tell you right now. But I spoiled myself. Since we moved into this house almost 20 years ago, I've always had, 200 gallons of salt water ready to go at any time.
Yeah.
And now I've usually got 500 gallons, maybe 700 gallons, depending. I mean, at the end of the month, I might have 200 gallons, but it's I got water changes ready to go. That's my first thing to do if something goes wrong.
I'm spoiled on that too, I suppose, because I'm a business, like in my garage, I have a 300 gallon, I always have 300 gallons of fresh water and 300 gallons of RODI water. But I mean, I don't think about that often, trying to put my shoes in a newer aquarist as a hobbyist perspective, because I've seen, you go around, you see how people are doing their thing. And sometimes like, oh man, I see people like mix, and they'll only turn on their RO unit to fill up a 5-gallon bucket and stuff like. I'm not pooing on it. I'm just saying, seeing how other people are doing their stuff. It's just awfully nice to have a larger container that you can kind of store and keep.
Well, it seemed to me to make just so much sense. But you can also go to most stores now and pick up 100 gallons and bring it home in jerry cans. So it's not like water's impossible to get. I think people, because it becomes a regular maintenance thing, people see that bit of money all the time, but they'll spend $800 on an algal turf scrubber and electricity to light it and run it 24/7.
Yeah.
But somehow spending, 35 cents or 55 cents a gallon of salt water once a month is too much money.
Let me kind of shit on buying water from a store. And the only reason that I can say this, or I'm allowed to say this, is I've been on that side of the thing. Now, I'm certainly not implicating every store that's out there in this. It's just, I guess for me, it's almost like cooking. Like you want to control all the variables. So like it's my opinion that in reefing, and I get it because some people are in certain situations where they like can't get an RODI unit, or maybe they feel intimidated by running an RODI unit, or they're on the 30th floor of an apartment building, or whatever the hell it is. But how do you know that the store is actually making, initially zero TDS, which, if you make zero total dissolved solids water, it doesn't stay zero for very long. It absorbs stuff into it. But I mean, how do you know they're keeping up with their pre-filters? How do you know that how do you know that's decent water?
Well, you just got to trust somebody at some point. If you don't trust your store, don't go there.
But okay, but then that's why I try to convince people, just buy your own RODI unit.
Yeah, but then you're just trading something else. Do you trust yourself to do the maintenance that you have to do to make sure that always works?
See, that's funny with me because I'm so maintenance centric. Like that's all in my wheelhouse. But I get it, because here's another thing to understand is if you're a hobbyist and we're pushing all these things on you, it turns the hobby into a drag.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy crap, I got to do what?
This hobby is a drag.
It can be, depending, what's like any endeavor, depending how deep you want to get into it. Like, do you want to grow your own wheat and all that to make a loaf of bread?
But it's but there's living things in this hobby. So I think it's different than like flying drones. So with flying drones, I don't want to build my own drones.
Yeah.
Right. I want to buy a drone and then go fly it around, FPV or cinematic, whatever. I got a friend who loves to build them. It's like, I don't want anything to do with that. And I would imagine that most people are like me in that hobby, is I just want to fly the damn thing. Reef keeping is kind of, why would that be any different? I just want the tank. I don't want to build a whole fucking plumbing support system to be able to have my tank. But you kind of, in some cases you really have to, because it's living things. It's like, if you buy a dog, if you get a dog, you got to be willing to take it to the vet or you're kind of an asshole. Right. Yeah. But, the dog's sick, I'm going to take it back to the pound now. Like, well, you're kind of a dick. And if you've got a water quality issue that's emergent and obvious, and you don't do a water change, you're kind of a dick, in the same way as somebody who won't, get their dog the freaking help it needs.
Well, and here's a problem I see too that I don't like. But again, this is in my wheelhouse, is I don't like irregular water changes. I do them when it looks like the tank needs it. I don't know that I feel that that's a very good strategy personally. It's like you would decide to do it once a week or every other week, or maybe you use the Apex to do daily water changes. That's cool too. Yeah. But to run for like 2 months. Oh, my tank's doing great. I mean, working at stores, I would always have that customer that would come in, bro, I haven't changed my water in like 1 year, and it was like a bragging right thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what do you want me to argue with you? Like, I don't think it's a good idea. Well, and invariably, every single time you'd see him at some other point in the future, it's like, oh, that tank crashed or whatever. It's like, I wonder why.
Yeah,
because you just refuse to do water changes.
If you're riding a tightrope, you might slip.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. There's a time when it makes sense to do the water change, and there's a time when not to make the water change. But it's got to be, I think it's got to be an active choice by the reef keeper rather than a forgetful choice. If you're not going to do water changes for 6 months, I hope you're really paying attention, because what you're also doing too is sliding your tank further and further away from the chemical makeup of your new water.
Yeah.
So now when you do a water change, it's very different than from when you do regular water changes, which can have good things and bad things. But, I'm really enjoying the constant water changes. I think they're really, I mean, it's just,
this is almost like, I don't know about a bigger issue, but this is the same thing with freshwater tanks, whether it's like specific with discus or something like that, or if it's just a general community tank, because, I hate to say this, and if someone is watching this, a freshwater aquarist as well, like don't take this offensive, but like a lot of times, like some freshwater hobbyists will be, less involved in their aquarium.
Well, it's
by
easier,
nature.
It's by its nature, it's a less complicated system.
Yeah. And then since I've always done freshwater and saltwater, and then working in stores, and someone would come in and freshwater hobbyists by and large would usually be pretty bad. It's like, they're asking me questions. Something wrong happened. Help me figure it out. How often do you do water changes? Oh, like once every 3 months. And first off, I said, try to do it a little more regularly, and maybe don't do so much. Just do it more regularly, because the other thing too is someone wouldn't change water for like 6 months. Now, what they weren't understanding is if even freshwater fish, as that pH slides and the nitrates come up, like that fish can slowly get used to those levels. Yeah. And you would say, I haven't changed water in 6 months. Fish look fine. Tank looks fine. Then you buy some fish from me. Now they'll likely get shocked from the pH. They come back the next day, damn, I bought fish from you and they died. And it's like, well, your fish that you have are used to those conditions that is slowly grown that way, or, and I tell someone, it's like, don't run home. If you hadn't changed water in 6 months, don't run home and do a 50% water change. You got to get back on the track slowly.
Yeah. Unless there's an emergent problem.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
and then
that's the point. That's the point that sometimes a big water change is to really change the chemistry of the system. It is very, 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 very likely.
Oh. Hey, beefers, we really appreciate all the help that you've given us in spreading the love. But what we ask of you now is, share this in some of your groups, in some of your Facebook groups or forums, or share it with a friend. If you're a beefer and someone else is doing aquarium stuff, they haven't heard of us, share the good word.
Share with your club, post on forums, spam forums with Reef Beef.
Yeah, just make us obnoxious. Yeah, get our stickers and put it on ketchup bottles.
Yeah, mustard bottles, but not mayonnaise.
Not mayonnaise.
Yeah, share the stuff around. Yeah, that would be great to help grow our audience. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed. That helps us out some too. And soon we'll be at 1,000 subs, and we'll have to do whatever we said we were going to do at 1,000 subs.
They're capes.
So help spread the love of Reef, the beefy love. Other things you can do is you can go to reefbeefpodcast.com/membership, and you can become a member, or you can buy us a beer. But as Ben pointed out, if you're going to buy us a beer for $3 more, you become a member, and then you get access to a bunch of the membership stuff.
Ask us a question. Yeah,
which is great. We love the questions in the comments, but we also really love direct questions. It really helps us jump around mentally and talk about things that we might not think about. So you can help guide the show by literally helping to guide the show. Thanks, beefers.
Thank you, beefers.
It is very, 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 very likely.
Oh. You had the thing you were talking about where, what was it, Kalkwasser that went crazy in your system?
When?
There was an earlier episode. There was something leaked into your tank with this Kalkwasser or something.
Yeah, I've hurt my tank 2 different ways over the years with Calc.
Yeah.
2 different ways. And now it doesn't happen anymore.
And it's like, oh, let the tank sit there with 11 alkalinity, or, we're going to have to bite the bullet and crank that down.
Exactly. So that's, one of the cases where having 200 gallons of water was really helpful.
Yeah.
Boom. I can do a huge water change right now because it needs to be changed, because the pH was 10.7. That's what it was.
Just like all of us, I'm frequently daydreaming about, how I take care of tanks, how we might in the future, just the pondering like that. And I could see I don't know how realistic this is, but I could see far in the future, there is a thing where maybe we don't do water changes, where there's something like the Apex, and it literally watches every single major and minor and trace element. And there could be a little computer that would put it and do something about the nitrate and do something about the phosphate. I mean, if we can even have a quarry, if we even exist 100 years from now.
Well, I think the idea of having a balanced system that you don't have to do anything to has been like this sexy unicorn we've been looking for, right? Yeah. But the thing is, balancing is really hard, and almost nobody is actually doing what would need to be done to balance. Everyone's adding new shit all the time to their tanks. Right. If you have, a pico reef with enough a small reef with enough biological filtration, and you got one fish in it and some corals, and, you're doing top off with just fresh water, you might be able to, that system might be able to deal with itself. But that's not what most people are doing. Most people want a full-blown reef, and most people are constantly adding new animals to it all the time. Same with freshwater. And this idea that we could, I want a system that's balanced that I don't have to do anything to. It's like, well, that's a job.
Yeah. But every time you add, corals, not as much. They don't have a lot of metabolic waste, but certainly a fish. Every time you add a fish, you've changed the nutrient levels, the nutrient profiles going on in the tank. I mean, that's a hard thing to quantify in your aquarium necessarily.
You've changed something. If you want it to be balanced, the whole idea of balance is that it's nothing balanced.
Changes. Yeah. That you didn't. Yeah. Like who in this hobby, doesn't buy anything for 3 years?
Right. I just ordered some fish this morning from Live Aquaria. And that's like the first fish I've added in a year.
Yeah.
Because I want some sand sifters and a pair of Bangais and something to eat some Aptasia. I bought a Marginalis.
Oh, cool.
A blemished Marginalis, because what do I care?
Blemished.
It's going in these systems because I've got a copper band in the front in the display. If I could catch that copper band out, actually I wouldn't. That copper band's been with me for like 8 years.
Just let him live his life out.
He's a pretty fish. Marginalis, I think, is prettier, but that's just because it's weirder.
Yeah.
But those would be the first fish I've added in a long time.
Oh, wait. So brain fart. That's the copper band from Australia that only has 2 stripes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And I've always been told that's the better choice. It's just that they cost more.
It's a better choice because they're not cyanide caught.
Yeah.
They're from Australia. So it's not a Philippines-based fish or an Indo fish where you don't know how it's been caught. From Australia it's net caught. I guess the last fish I added were these biota tangs, which was, I guess, a year ago.
Yeah.
But speaking of which, I ordered we were talking about all this talk about oxygen got me to look at my power outage backup solution readiness. And so I checked my air pumps that come on automatically. And all I had set up on the display was one Penplex with the batteries that senses when the power goes out and comes on, and the batteries were dead. The other one was disconnected. And I have 5 of the Cobalt USB powered pumps that do the same thing as the Penplex in boxes. Here's 3 of them here. So I set 2 of them up just to get them going on the display tank. And I ordered a bigger pump because I really want more water, more air moving. And
I think Azu, that company Azu?
Yeah,
they make a big old honking unit.
Yeah, this is a different one. I think this is a JBJ unit. We'll see if it's any good. Where I want to put it, that big unit is a little tough.
Funky. Yeah.
I want to put it up above the tank.
Oh, okay.
But I want as much water as I can. So this other unit's bigger. And then 4 of these, one of these will go on to each of these 4 tanks. And then I'll be set. It's funny because this is clearly a project I started a long time ago and just forgot about.
Yeah. I mean, there's even something dead sitting on top of it.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, did I take the other line out? Because it's just air to a rigid airline tubing, right? Because you want there's not that much dissolution through bubbles. Oxygen doesn't dissolve out of bubbles, really. The gas exchange happens at the surface when the surface tension is broken, not just agitated. You have to break the surface tension, right?
Let's repeat that for the people in the back, because I don't think a lot of people, I come across people that don't know that. You think that the air pump putting the air bubbles and that going in there, that's kind of what throws oxygen in there. It's not that. It's when the bubble breaks the surface and the expanding the surface area top that facilitates the gas exchange. That's really where the $1 million things going on.
So I want big ass bubbles coming up in my tank, roiling the surface area. And I think an air stone doesn't do that as well.
No.
Also, you get that salt creep, which is higher. And also air stones will clog if you leave them in the tank.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of reasons not to use air stone.
And you couldn't do the lime wood. It would just rot before it ever turned on.
Yeah. So yeah. So I thought I had taken that out, and I realized I just had taken the pump off of it. So I was like, oh, the line is still there. So I just hooked up the new one. But I'm going to redo the whole thing. We'll talk about it more when that happens.
Yeah, last winter during our big freeze, I was bummed out to find that one of my kind of most important clients out there, that he had the Ecotech battery backups on Vortex. He has 2 of them, and those things didn't even turn on.
Ooh.
I was like, and I remember seeing, I don't go on forums, but I remember seeing that there had been some issues with the older models of the battery backups after a certain amount of time. Something I didn't look into it, but they had some issues with it. But I was like, damn, I've had that on there as a backup this whole time, and it did not.
You got to test your backups.
Yeah.
You got to test them regularly to see what they're doing. I used a Ecotech with the battery for a long time. I had it on the back of the tank up near the surface because, again, my training is you have to break the surface tension. But it was just the wrong place for the wrong piece of kit. Yeah. So I ended up taking it off and went to these bubbles when I realized I'm just not going to have power outages often enough to warrant having a pump solution.
Hey, that's worth repeating too. That Richard doesn't put air stones or any. It's just an open, rigid airline tubing for these emergency air pumps. So if you have that sort of situation, you should consider. Don't worry about little air stones or anything like that. Just leave it open because you want that crazy agitation at the top.
The other thing that I would do if I didn't have, 4 of these the Fluval FS6, Fluval C6s, that's my return pump. That would be the thing I would want to have on a UPS. I would want, if I had my druthers about one thing besides heaters to keep on in a power outage, it would be the return pump.
Yeah.
Because then you're getting all the oxygen, you're getting some flow, you're getting a ton of gas exchange still. That's what I would want to do. So when we go solar, if we ever go solar and we have those batteries, I will, there will be a couple things on the tank that will stay on, and that will be one of them, even at 60 watts. At that point, if we ever got a big battery outside, or if all these pumps die and I end up going to some crazy low wattage Seche return pump at some point.
Yeah. A Seche,
which I have somewhere, but I haven't hooked it up. Because why would I? I've got 4 of these other pumps new in box, and they won't die. They never die.
You have pumps for decades.
Like 6 years old, and they
if you think about it, 60 watts. I mean, and there's more efficient stuff nowadays, but that's just like an old school light bulb. I mean,
or are they 90 watts? Oh, I want to find out. I'm going to look it up because that's
you might totally need to know that.
That's
don't make a backup plan without testing it on a regular basis. Otherwise, it's not much of a backup plan.
Oh, it's 135 watts.
Whoa, that's a big difference there, Cochise.
So, yeah. What are the watts of? Well, I'm going to look it up. We're sitting here.
Of a Nabiz or a Seche? What is the one that I got for you? There's ADV or SDC, and the ADV is the per hours. But that one's DC, so it's kind of variable wattage.
Right, that's what you want.
Yeah, and I don't know. would that CJ interface with the Apex to where you could
The one I got does.
change the, the Apex could control the speed, the RPMs, the wattage draw?
Yes. So when if it reads a power outage somewhere, it could go down to 50% or something like that. I've never
And in
set
that situation, I kind of feel like I'd also tell the skimmer to shut off because
Absolutely.
it's going to cause issues with the skimmer level.
Well, it depends on how you're running it.
Oh, that's true, because the way yours is set up, it kind of divorces itself from that.
It won't make a difference. Which pump is that? The ADV? Is that it?
It's the
SDC.
Okay, you're right. The ADV is the cheaper one. It is still DC, but it's not. It doesn't come with a controller, where the SDC is the one that comes.
I don't think it's big. It doesn't match.
Oh, by the way, look at my beverage receptacle. Reef Beef.
Oh, that's cool.
Why don't people go to reefbeefpodcast.com and check out our swag stuff? And by the way, let me ask you people, you love the show and everything, and you comment, share it to like a reefing forum you're part of, or, share it to a friend that is into this. Share it around, paste it right on there, and give us some exposure. We would greatly appreciate that.
We would. So the CJ is 90 watts. It does about 300 gallons an hour less. Big deal. But it's 90 watts is 135 watts. They might as well be the same thing for that. So yeah, I'm not changing anything. God, if you are running a DC return pump, I'm looking for something that runs about 3,000 gallons an hour, 13,000 liters, about 3,000 gallons, that pulls the lowest watts. So what's the lowest wattage pulling pump that you know of that runs about 3,000 GPH?
I mean, honestly, isn't that going to be an Abyss?
What the hell do I know? You want me to Google that? You want me to look that up?
You already wasted our viewers' time Googling the other thing. It's got to be an Abyss.
I'll look it up. Okay? I'm looking it up right now.
Watch this.
Which, like what, the A200?
Yeah, but I mean, you got to match it to that liters per hour or gallons per hour that you were just requiring.
3,800 gallons, 22. So it would be this one, the 200. Okay, so that's only $2,400 as opposed to $300. So
that's the rub.
There is that. 4 to 200. So it's about this,
Oh, okay. 4 to 200. 200 cranked. Yeah.
So eventually they'll be down, or there'll be a better UPS solution for me that would run a 135 watt pump for 24 hours.
Yeah.
And if anybody is smarter than us about backup batteries like that, if you know of such a battery that's not $2,000 that's going to run my backup pump, my return pump for 24 hours at 135 watts, let me know, because I'll buy it.
I mean, holy cow. Would you think that you would experience an outage for that long?
No, but what's the point of buying something if you're not prepared for at least a day?
That's true.
That's what I think.
Please don't ever come across a situation where you're out of power for 24 hours.
Yeah. In fact, I'd like to run 200 watts, because then I would have the return to this system going as well. One day that will all happen, and then we don't have to do water changes ever.
Yeah. No, but you know what I mean about some future thing where it checks literally everything that we deem as important and then adds or moves it. I just don't. And it seems when I peek a little bit on forums here and there, and it is a somewhat popular thing, I think.
The
Triton method. And it's funny to an old salt. Like, it's funny. I don't get arrogant, think like, oh, these people do it, because you see some gorgeous tanks with that method,
Yeah. So that method is basically they send the ICP in, and then they get told what they're deficient in, and then they buy whatever they're supposed to be deficient in and dose it, or they adjust their dosing based on that.
Yeah.
It's a fine way to go. There's a, what is it? Reef moonshine, same kind of thing. It's a fine way to go. If you want to, you just got to do what they say. So now instead of doing water changes, you're sending ICP in and you're buying a bunch of dosers and you're buying a whole bunch of chemicals that you're putting in the tank all the time.
I know they'd argue with us and they could be valid and we could be wrong. But I mean, to me, still at this point, it seems like needless, but I've looked at some moonshine, tanks out there and Triton tanks out there, and it's kind of hard to argue my case. That's what I was trying to get at earlier, is I saying sometimes, even though I've been in the hobby for a while, sometimes for like a little while, I'll feel like, oh man, is it passing me by somehow? Am I not staying current on something?
Yeah, you're not.
And I'm sitting up here on my soapbox telling people how they should do stuff. And it's like, oh crap, does someone figure out a way to do stuff better and easier? But I don't know if I see that it's there yet.
Some of it, but it's it's very slow moving. It's, there's no miracle device that we can trust. I mean, it's been 5 years since the first automatic alkalinity tester has come out. That was the pre-Trident, that was Jim's first thing. But now, after a year or two of the Trident being out and running people's calcium reactors based on alkalinity and running people's dosing based on magnesium and calcium and alkalinity, okay, so that can be done. That's been shown to work. But again, it's the same thing with all automation and all everything. It's just, you're just trading one set of worries and actions and expenses for another.
And automation can screw you over.
Yeah, and
non-automation.
Yeah, and so can non-automation.
Yeah.
That's why it's like the idea that, calcium reactor or dosing. It's like, well, I keep seeing that, more people are doing dosing. It's like, well, yeah, but that can screw you up too. You get the doser goes bad,
sure.
and runs.
I told you I have that client that I'm going to have to take over that part of it, because he's one of those clients, I call it a pseudo hobbyist, where I'm the one that, I do regular visits, but he still like messes with his Trident. And I need to tell him, like, please quit doing that, because he dumped so much alk several times that it solidified his filter socks. I did throw filter socks away. They turned into rocks.
Well, look, Aaron, who was on our show before, he was priming his alkalinity doser and dropped the whole cup of alkalinity into his sump.
Whoa. Now,
of his frag system.
That's one of those cases where you bust a water change.
Yeah, well, he was leaving in an hour. So what he did was he just moved all the corals out of that system into his other system.
Damn.
Which seems to have worked. But it's like, man, there is always a way to screw up your system.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So no matter what you're doing, there's nothing bulletproof. Your automation the system is only as good, as Sanjay says, the system is only good as its weakest component, the reef keeper.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all good. Do whatever you want. Like I say, do whatever you want, as long as you have some reasoning behind the methodology that you are using. I am thrilled for you to use it.
Yeah.
I don't have to agree with it. It's just got to work for you. And then you got to have results at the end.
I just get tickled when you see someone get all excited about some method that that parallels to other things in your life besides aquariums, but someone just gets super, bent over the moon about some new method they're doing. You talk to them later. And that's kind of my attitude about like the moonshine thing or the Triton thing or any of this. Like, I'm not an early adopter of stuff like that. I kind of wait around and see, does it mature? Does it go away? Does it, it here to stay?
To that point, if you're going to do one of those systems, why don't you just do water changes every 2 weeks for a year first?
Yeah.
See if that does what you want it to do.
Yeah.
Forget the chasing numbers. Find a regular, repeatable way to make water or buy water and do those water changes every 2 weeks or once a month for a year, and don't spend the money on all the other stuff. I mean, if I had space and money, that would be a cool long-term experiment.
Oh, earlier, I'd hate to go back. To be
no, you don't.
cogent. But
you
know, when I was kind of saying I was going to shit on buying water from fish stores.
Oh yeah, and you didn't really shit on it.
Well, I mean, together with how do you know that they're really taking care of the RO unit? But the other part to that is don't go there and buy salt water. You still have a decent way to test salinity. I mean, you should on your own system. Don't assume that they mixed it right. I don't care how much you love the store or how thorough the person is or any of this. You got to double check, because if so many times I've seen someone just made a simple mistake and you just did a water change with 40 parts per thousand salinity water, and it's like double check.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, one of the things I love about the constant water change, the automatic constant water change, is that problem becomes lessened, right? I don't care what the salinity coming in is. I will see it change system wide over the course of days. Yeah. So if it's high or low, whatever. And I'm always adjusting salinity anyway, based on what I'm seeing. Am I adding more salt water? Do I turn off the ATO for a little bit? Stuff like that. So that's a nice benefit to the constant automatic water change, is that those kinds of problems become less urgent.
Yeah. Oh man, I just took over. I just got a new client. I just took over a system.
Congratulations.
And it's not a crazy system.
Are they millionaires?
No, it's a business, but it's in their front lobby. And I mean, I'll be frank. It's nothing that I would even show people that I take care of. It didn't even have a skimmer. So I cleaned it for the first time today, and I added a Delua GW10.
Oh yeah.
Is a skimmer I like a lot. One of our past sponsors, Unique Corals, they sell them. It's a great skimmer. So I put that on there, and I used my Misco today. So the first thing I did, I put a towel down, kneel down. I checked the salinity, 49 parts per thousand.
That's high.
And I'm like, man. So it was kind of cool. So instead of doing regular water changes, I was doing water changes with RO water.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's not much in it. There's no corals in it. There's a lot of algae and diatoms and stuff, which you would find at a system that high, where I don't know what sort of bacteria is going on in there at 49. It's probably all confused. But I brought it down to 40. And then again, it's kind of like what I preach, there's nothing new in it. There's no reason to go galloping all the way down to 35.
No, it's even harder to do it unless you've got all that water there.
That's the funny thing, is because, I mean, I carry a 250-gallon vat in the back of my truck. And to be honest with you, what actually happened is I used all my water trying to get them down. And I was like, you know what? 2 weeks, I'll be back and I'll bring it down to 35. And that will force it to be a little more gentle than what I was going to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I put a skimmer on it, and the first thing I did when I got there was trying to convince them to get like a $15,000 system. And they weren't sure that, and that's fine, because a lot of times when you come in is they want to get to know you, and, you just walk in talking about dropping more money. And so I'll develop that relationship, and eventually they'll put something there that's more deserving of sitting in front of there.
Cool. And then we have some Ask Reef Beef, which is good.
Should we do that right now?
I think we're done.
Okay.
Especially, this is a lot of questions in this one.
Put question. A fork in it. Yeah, it's like one of those questions where it has like.
No, you know what? I'm wrong. I think we should do it.
Okay.
It's a Ask Reef Beef asking us a question. We should answer it.
The guy has a good Texas name.
This is okay. I'll read it.
No, I thought I was going to read it.
Can you read? I didn't know you could read.
Yeah, they passed that law in Texas. They allowed us to read.
Okay, don't say the last name, because we don't know if they want to be known.
I kind of already did. But okay, let's call him KW.
Okay.
So KW says, hey guys, longtime reefer, was a bar member in mid-late 2000s, out of the hobby a good 7 years, but back in strong the last 3 years. Anyhow, hoping for a two-parter. Part 1, Chapter 1. I remember Rich talking about not using one of the membranes in an RODI unit, and I can't remember if it's the RO membrane or the DI. I'll tell you, Rich doesn't do RODI. He just does DI.
Yeah.
You want to explain?
Yeah, I do DI. The TDS, the TDS coming out of my tap is usually around 30 to 50 TDS. Wow. It's really low. It's really low. So I just run DI, and I run DI to scavenge because it's inexpensive relatively, and we know there's copper piping in the house, and I want it to be cleaner. So just the DI. I change it every month or so. But I have an inline TDS meter that I check kind of regularly. So even though KW that we live near each other, it doesn't mean that our water is coming from the same place. So check your TDS, because if your TDS is coming out at 300, you may not want to be just running DI.
That would cause it to be too expensive. But I mean, and also I could say, in California, I know water is a little harder to come by. So that's a consideration there as well.
Meh.
Who knows? Okay. Chapter 2.
Oh, you mean you'd rather not run the RODI because of the wastewater in the RO?
Yeah, the amount of waste. But
I agree.
You'd have to juggle how much it's costing you. Like Rich said, if you have a high initial TDS, it's just going to rip through DI like no one's business.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to consider, because deionization resin is little plastic microbeads, you'd have to weigh that. But if you're chunking DI, hey, that's a good pointer. Let me tell beefers that if you are throwing DI beads away, please put it in a Ziploc bag and throw it in the trash that way if you're doing that.
Why?
Craig Bingman told me that, because he was saying it's much easier for that to make it to a landfill than a bunch of loose beads.
Oh, I see. So they go into a landfill and it's much more likely to be in one piece.
Yeah, and we're not happy that it's in the trash, but it's much better that it's sitting in a landfill than scattered all over the place. If you throw it loose in your trash, that's the crap that ends up in the ocean.
Yeah, you see, my initial reaction was that's stupid. And then I immediately turned on a dime because you gave me a credible reason. It's like, yep.
And it's just because I invoked Craig Bingman.
No, you didn't need to invoke Craig Bingman. That got me to sit up straighter. But the idea that it goes into the landfill in one piece rather than spread all over the place, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I would not run DI if I was trying to reduce 350 TDS. That's just insane. You just completely cost ineffective.
Yeah.
All right. Part 2.
Chapter 2. One of my reefs, my 40-gallon, has velvet. I'm assuming he means udinium or amyludinium.
Sure. Or Brucknelia. It's hard to tell what people mean by
this. I'm about a month away to being able to add fish again if I wait out the 76 days or so it takes to starve them out. Getting a lot more algae growth, not having, he says herps. But my brother's a herpetologist, and that's snakes and lizards.
Herbivores.
Oh, herbs in there. Getting a lot more algae growth, not having herbivores in there. What should I do? Add more cleanup crew? I've been manually taking care of it somewhat. It's not bad right now, but I can see where it might be going. Love the show. Super blah, blah, blah. Okay. My problem with that is if there's no, I guess I'm assuming, is there corals in there or not? Because if there's no corals in there, just turn the lights off.
Absolutely.
Then no algae. That will go away on its own.
If there are corals in there,
yeah, it's trickier.
You gotta get.
Yeah, man, I can't imagine that way in 76 days. Fallow to beat out Brook or Amyludinium. That's just tough.
I think that's going to have to be a whole nother show.
Yeah.
Where we talk about that.
Yeah.
About that kind of QT. Because I know that's the hip thing to do now, or one of the hip things is to be fallow for 76 days if you have. But, I just think.
How many initial hobbyists, not that KW is one of them, but how many initial hobbyists is 76 days is the length of time that they're even in the hobby.
Right. But I was going to say, it's like, unless you become completely regimented in QT, your 76 days, is that worth it or not? So I don't know. So anyway, we'll talk about that another time. What should you do? Yeah, you could add some different kind of cleanup crew. I need to know the kind of algae that you've got growing. So send us a picture or something.
Oh, you know what? You know where he should get that cleanup crew from? Saltwateraquarium.com.
Oh my God, you are so slick.
Sponsor of the show. Did you see how I slid that in there? But it's very true.
You slid that right in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, get a cleanup crew that works with the algae. But I don't know what algae you've got, so we need to know a little more information. So Kenny, we need a follow up from you about what. Yeah, send us some pictures of the algae. Let us know if you've got corals in there. And yeah, you are close to me, so we should go for coffee sometime because I like going for coffee with people. Cool. So we answered that question. That was fun.
Awesome. Are we good to go?
I think we're good to go.
Hey, Beefers, we really appreciate you, sharing this content and liking it and commenting on the YouTubes and all that. And we would love to make many more of these.
We appreciate you, Beefers. Team Beef. Have a good night.
Team Beef. Good night.
And
Yeah, we got it. Loki, god of mischief.
I am burdened with glorious motherfucking purpose.
Where did you get a Loki outfit?
Our theme this year for Halloween is Loki's.
Really? Loki's of any flavor?
Our plan is to actually take pictures of us both as several Lokis and Photoshop a whole thing of Lokis. So I have my main one is Loki running for president. Because I think that's the funniest Loki.
I think we already had that.
And this mask from fucking China is terrible, but it's.
Oh, the little cheek guards are.
I gotta hit this with a heat gun.
Heat gun, yeah.
Thank you, Beefers. Thank you, Beefers.
Namaste.
Namaste, Beef. Beef naste. Beef naste.
Beef naste. Flash. Oh.
Blame every one of us.
Flash. Blame every one of us.
That's not how it goes.
Doesn't sound like it. that just reminds me. What's that film, that Lost Highway, where at the party that guy goes, "Call me, I'm in your house."
Is that movie where there's a head? They shoot the head at the gas station.
I think so.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
That actor that did the "Call Me, I'm at your house," he committed a crime. He murdered someone. He went to jail.
Yay!
I don't remember his name.
That's with that old guy.
Yeah.
What's that old guy's name?
The old actor? I don't remember.
He's dead. He was also in Repo Man, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. Harry Dean Stanton.
Look at that. Nice recollection there, pal.
He was creepy.
Very creepy.
Very creepy. How come it doesn't say the wattage? Details.
I see Snowman snipping this dead air.
This is not dead air. This is exciting. Look at Rich
as Richard finds something out in real time.